What's up? It's James, and welcome back to episode 10 of Governopolis. Today we will be talking about Georgia government versus the federal government. They are pretty similar, actually, and so it's not going to be that much of a conversation to have. The most important thing to remember is that the head of the federal government is the president, and the head of Georgia's government is the governor. They basically do the same things in respect for the things they're leading, so the governor is basically just Georgia's president. The current president is Joe Biden, and the current governor of Georgia is Brian Kemp. Now let's talk about the Constitution. The construction of the constitutions of both the federal government and the Georgia government are very similar. The Constitution of the federal government has a preamble, 7 articles, and 33 amendments. The Constitution of the Georgia government has a different amount of things, but it's built the same way. It has a preamble, 9 articles, no amendments, although it does have a process for making amendments if there ever need to be any, and 6 provisions, which are kind of like amendments, but it's more just fixing up things. Now let's talk about the legislature, which is the most different part of this whole thing. The federal government's legislature is called the Congress, and the Georgia government's legislature is called the Georgia General Assembly. I'm letting you know this so that it's easy to understand who I'm talking about when I talk about them. At the base, they are the same. They both have a Senate and a House of Representatives, and they both make laws for whichever part of government they are for. However, the specific things they do are pretty different. The Georgia General Assembly, while creating, debating, and determining laws, can also determine operating budgets, consider amendments, and establish legislative districts in Georgia. The Congress, for the federal government, while it can make laws, can also declare war, regulate interstate and foreign commerce, and control taxing and spending policies. The biggest thing to understand about this part is that the Congress is basically just the bigger version of the Georgia General Assembly. It can do more because it pertains to all of the states. Now, in the executive branch, they are very similar. Both the president and the governor serve 2 terms, in each of which are 4-year terms. They don't have to serve 2 terms, but 2 is the limit. They can oversee the budget for what they're overseeing. They can lead the National Guard for what they're overseeing. For Georgia, it's the police force. But for the whole federal government, it is just the Army. They can veto or approve legislation or laws. They can hold special sessions with their legislature, and they can nominate officials. A big difference is that the president also works with diplomacy for other nations, while the state legislature doesn't because it's a state and not the whole country. The judicial branches are incredibly similar. They interpret laws. The federal government determines if laws are constitutional or not, while the state government doesn't have to because it pertains to whether they're constitutional in the state constitution and not in the whole federal constitution. And the state government is overseen by the judicial court. And now, in terms of tax revenue, it basically is just where the benefits go to. The state benefits go primarily to education, Medicaid, and the general fund, while the federal benefits go a lot further to benefits for veterans, retirees, Safe Food and Drug Administration, education, medical research, and infrastructure. And that's all for today. Join Governopolis next week where we will talk about the Hawaii state government versus the federal government.